Thank you for attending this session despite the tempting coffee break and the caffeine fix. So basically, my session today is about telling you a story by design, right? I'm going to go through by giving you guys a brief history about myself. So my name is Jordan. I'm the VP for APAC for Sizmek, formerly known as MediaMind, formerly known as iBlaster. So you guys will know us in one form or the other. I've been with the company for the last 9 years. When I started off, I was very young, innocent, and naive. Today, I'm still very innocent and naive, but not so young anymore. So, but one thing's remained unchanged, the fact that over the last 9 years, I've actually spent my entire career on the buy side of the industry, right? Essentially helping advertisers and brands and agencies to win. The role that we play is really how do we help you guys to differentiate yourself? How do you continue to look at the different channels, addressing these challenges and constantly improving performances? If you look at today's world of marketing, especially digital marketing, the role of a modern marketer is actually very, very challenging because you have to constantly focus on 3 key pillars, right? How do you get your best ROI? How do you constantly build meaningful connections? And last but not least, how do you continue to differentiate yourself against your competitors, right? And within these 3 key priorities, there's always huge tension between these 3 pillars, right? And this tension actually causes a lot of silos and fragmentations. So from a marketer standpoint, you'll probably ask this question: is the glass half empty or half full? What if your customers come back and tell you, hey, dude, this is not even what I ordered, right? So what has all this got to do with advertising? Everything. Because that example that I've just shared with you, there's absolutely no relevance or no contextual whatsoever, right? Just like how a lot of advertising campaigns today is actually being executed, right? You're just doing it for the sake of doing it. And for us, we believe that a great marketer will always straddle, very closely between the creativity side of the dimension as well as the analytical side of the business, right? How you're able to shift these 2 balance together is what makes a great campaign. So if you look at this particular slide I'm about to share with you, that's how we see advertising or digital advertising should work, right? It's about creating an infinite loop where you have creativity as well as data, right? The more data that you ingest into this system, the more relevant your creative messaging will become, right? And that's how you continue to feel the ever-going performance in your campaign. Now, why is that important? If you look at today's consumer, they've got a lot of choice, right? And a lot of these choices are a lot more appealing than your ads, right? So what do you do as an advertiser? Do you end up spending more money, to buy more eyeballs? I'm sure a lot of my publisher friends here will welcome that thought, but it's not really that, right? It's about really how do you leverage, your creativity, your data assets to start building meaningful and engaging stories with your audience. That's about, that's what we believe is the real philosophy of running a great digital campaign. It's really about, helping you guys or helping the brands to stand out from the crowd, right? Creativity and data, beauty and intelligence really have to be foundational from everything that you build. This is what we mean by your story by design. Thank you very much. No, I'm just joking. There's a lot more to it. So, sorry, let me just go back a second. So understanding your audience, the channels that's available today is key, right? And there are so many new developments that's constantly happening right now. I'm just going to refresh your memory by sharing a few, and hopefully some of these could make sense to you. There's not a single session today that you go to any conferences that doesn't talk about the big P word, right? Programmatic. So, it's going to sound like a broken record, but, you pretty much know the importance on how, programmatic is happening now. $1 in $5 are going to be spent in 2014, 1 in 3 is going to be spent in 2017. So with the investment in programmatic, what you have actually seen on the internet today is there's a lot of crappy creative, right? You go on to a particular e-commerce website or to a particular website, the next thing you know, you have like really ugly ads flashing to you, constantly reminding you about the things that you've just previously browsed. And it can be quite awkward if you've gone to some adult-oriented sites, right? So the point being is that while programmatic is heavily invested, there's a lot of growing pains, right? And data is essentially moving, but seriously, creative is lagging behind, right? That's what, and it's important because there's only so much that technology can do for you, right? Targeting, retargeting will only get so far for you in marketing. So the way we look at it, as one of the key advocate of this creative idea, it's about the whole industry is so fixated with the plumbing that actually no one is remembering the poetry, right? So we really need to bring sexy back. So how do we do that, right? We believe what we call programmatic 2.0. So programmatic 2.0 is where the amount of inventory that you have should not create any problem for you from a creativity standpoint, especially with advertisers now going to do things like private marketplaces, doing deals directly with key publishers. You need to be able to leverage on all the funky creative ideas so that your ads actually resonate with your consumers. People are actually engaging with your brands instead of just focusing on the performance. So that's a key trend that we're seeing. The other thing about programmatic is the fact that when we talk about programmatic, we absolutely must talk about mobile. Why? Because if you look at the trends, I think by next year, or in fact, towards the end of this year, you'll start to see that actually mobile programmatic is actually going to overtake desktop programmatic in terms of the spending. So what other stats to actually bore you with? If you look at the importance of mobile, the statistics speaks for itself. But enough about statistics. I'm just going to give you a very simple hypothesis. Look at your phone now. If your battery right now is 5%, none of you guys will be paying attention to me right now. You'll be frantically looking around for a power bank, right? So 75% of people actually will have a full state of panic if your battery is running out of juice, right? So that's how critical mobile is to us today from a indispensable perspective. And even from a mobile advertising point of view right now, $18 billion have already been spent on mobile advertising. But think about it, right? Despite so much money being thrown into mobile advertising, when was the last time a mobile ad actually registered with you or even resonated with you? For me, none, right? So basically, the point being is that you can't look at mobile advertising for the sake of doing it as a silo. More often than not, mobile advertising has been like a tag along to a media plan, right? If you're not understanding the value of the channel, how fundamental the marketing should work within mobile, you shouldn't even do it at all, right? So I'm going to talk through very quickly 3 key facts that I'm seeing right now that are important for any mobile campaigns to consider. Right now, if you look at fact number 1, if you look at time spent versus media budget allocated for mobile, it's extremely lopsided, right? We're spending so much time on our mobile devices, but the 8x, the money hasn't funneled through. We see that it's going to change very quickly. Why? With a couple of key trends. You look at the adoption of 4G in the region, right? So 4G will essentially allow you to download, extremely fast speeds, which doesn't create any more latency from, rich or heavy kind of ad sizes. Second, it's tool sets on how do you build, because if you look at mobile, we're no longer talking about Flash, we're talking about HTML5. But unfortunately, HTML5 as a technology is still not as developed comparatively to Flash, right? So we believe that there's more and more adoption, more usage of HTML5, greater tool sets, creative tool sets. You will start getting a lot more creativity in that medium, and that will actually help to drive the adoption of mobile advertising in the region. The second important thing to take note of for mobile is the fact that it isn't simple, right? It comes in different shapes and sizes. So, just because something works on iOS doesn't mean that it will work on Android, or your strategy across feature phones in emerging markets should be very different from how you want to do a tablet campaign. So some of these points for you to consider. I think And the third more important point for me is this, right? Fact number 3 is there's this crazy rush to convert people on mobile, right? Everything that I see on mobile is either asking me to download a game or download an app or do something, right? So we are spending so much time on trying to do this conversion that we are actually not, there isn't enough thought process about how do you engage people on mobile, right? And for us, the way that we look at it is your advertising essentially should drive your mobile app properties, and your mobile properties data should be able to fuel your advertising, right? That's how we look at it. And when we talk about mobile, we absolutely must talk about mobile video.
Like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey.
Does this bring back memories to some of you guys? It certainly doesn't to me because I'm too young.
The world to sing with me.
This is a real great piece of creative which I absolutely just need to insert it just for entertainment value and nothing else. So if we talk about mobile video today, it's again a very pervasive and popular trend. It is mobile video, while a lot of advertisers, what they tend to do is, how do I now take my 30-second TVC and adapt it for different screens? That's the most easiest way of doing it. But what I want to share is, what are the interesting trends that's happening on mobile, right? Or mobile video at least. If you look at Vine, the 6-second Vine is actually the new 30-second commercial, right? You look at Instagram, the people are now starting to post videos and all. So this is a very interesting, very interesting trend. Now, why is this important? Because the average person only has a 7-second time span, right? If I flash you the Coke ad just now for longer than that, I'm going to lose you. Now, so this is the average person, has a 7-second attention time span. Another interesting fact, the goldfish actually has 8. So congratulations, guys. We officially have a shorter time span than a goldfish. So online video is no longer even a question, right? When we speak to a lot of our global advertisers, especially the FMCG guys, they are now looking to shift budgets over to online video, right? But as the industry actually matures, we've got to look at a couple of key things. The first thing is we really need to apply intelligence to make the video a lot more relevant and engaging, right? As audiences chase content, as advertisers, you guys need to be a lot more dynamic. The video ad that you and I see, depending on the location, our interest, should actually be very different, right? And that's, I think, the most common thing that we should start advocating today in the industry. If you look at the shift in terms of the TV budgets to online today, the TV spends today is still $200 billion US dollars. And for us to take this money and shift it to online, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, right? Areas like how do we ensure from ad quality standpoint, when people have access to 4G, do you want to push them a standard definition video or a high def video, right? Things like brand safety. How do you ensure that, that Khoo Coke ad doesn't fall into the wrong places? How do you ensure that, your media is actually optimized, right? According to screen sizes, according to how the people behave. And last but not least is to make sure that there is no latency in the ad loading. Because don't forget, you only have 7 seconds to capture the attention span. So now, so people always say, what about online, offline, how do you, allocate the budgets and all? The way we look at video, actually, consumers are going to watch content more often than not this way, right? Irregardless of screen. The moment I stop watching it on my TV, when I take the train, I should be able to continue the journey on my tablet, and when I'm taking my toilet break, I should be able to watch it on my smartphone. That's how consumers are doing it today, right? But marketers are just, I think right now, too hung up about, how do we ensure, the whole process is seamless. We have to really, take a leap of faith and believe today technology is already available, that wherever it lands, Doesn't matter whether it's a 30-second ad, a 6-second ad, a 60-second ad, things will work out, right? There are already technology that enables the delivery seamlessly across the different channels. One last thing before I end the session is the fact that a lot of marketers today is still focusing on a campaign-by-campaign basis, right? You're always looking at a campaign mode basis. We got to start expanding that to look at beyond campaign and look at always-on strategy instead. Why is that important? It's because your consumers are not waiting for your campaigns to happen, right? Your consumers are there constantly, engaging with your brand, having a purchase intent, wanting to buy something, right? If you don't adopt an always-on strategy as part of your overall marketing mix, you're actually losing out. And more importantly, regardless whether it's always on or campaign basis, your brand story needs to engage, always. So if you look at some of the trends that I've just shared with you, there is a lot of different technology stacks out there. There's a lot of different channels that you need to engage. And the challenge of today's modern marketer will only become even more confusing because there's going to be a lot more different emerging channels that you need to consider, right? And with that, we believe that you really need to start considering, building something that's on an open system basis because you never know, when the next Facebook is going to come, when the next Vine is going to come, and when the next Twitter is going to come. If you look at the trends of IT investments or marketing investment over the last 3-5 years, anything that you have that doesn't allow seamless integration, you're pretty screwed because you have to change everything and it's going to be as painful as pulling teeth, right? So open system, open ad management is something that, as a company, Sizmek believe that this is the way to go, right? And why is this important? It's because if you think about it, somebody who runs an FMCG and somebody who runs e-commerce for retail and somebody who runs an airline, no two companies are the same, right? So your needs are different. The kind of investment that you put in will be different, right? So when you have an open ad management system, it's basically like a building blocks of Lego that you plug and play the different connection points to make that particular marketing technology stack as yours. So over at Sizmek, what do we do is the fact that we empower advertisers, agencies with the remote so that you can actually tell your story from start to finish, right? And that's essentially what we mean by your story by design. So thank you very much. This is really the end. Before I let you go, I also wanted to take you through one of the cool stuff that we will be actually launching. So you can actually see it if I can bring this over to my other screen. Okay. So basically, this is actually a ad gallery that we have built, right? If you talk about creativity, all the coolest different creative, whether is it based on the different channels, desktop, HTML5, mobile, it's all here where you can see the demos. You can actually filter based on verticals. You can filter based on formats, and you can filter based on features. So your ad essentially, even when you're doing remarketing or whatnot, doesn't necessarily need to be boring, right? There's a lot of cool stuff that you can actually do today. And the best way to do it is see what other people have done. So when I click on one of these ads, you have to put in the plugins and whatnot, but you have a good idea in terms of how it can actually look like. So hopefully this could be another good resource for you guys to consider when you're thinking of your next campaign. So with that, thank you so much, guys. If you have any question, I'm here for the next 3 minutes before we end the session.